My conversations with Joe Biden long predate this presidential race. They predate the 2016. We've had a lot of conversations about how we build an America going forward with lots of different pieces and parts to that. Now that I'm no longer in the presidential race, I had a chance to resume a lot of those and to start a bunch of new ones. Because look, we both want the same thing. We want this country to work, and we want it to work for everyone. So I'm in this fight to help in any way I can. We are all in this now. And we have seen the importance of having a leader that we can count on in a crisis. It's not Donald Trump. It is Joe Biden.
If he asked you to be his running mate, would you say yes?
Yes.
I'm so happy you just gave me a concise answer to that.
Whew. Okay, I hate 2020. That's Elizabeth Warren last night on Rachel Maddow's show, openly advocating to be Joe Biden's vice president. Now, Elizabeth Warren has been maddening over the past few months. She would be a more progressive vice president, perhaps push him in that direction. Again, that's the one silver lining to this, but he should not pick her. It doesn't make any sense. He doesn't need to win over college-educated, middle to upper class coastal elites, which is who Warren appeals to. I can't believe that that's who her demographic became, but that's exactly what it became. Biden's got that locked up in November. He needs to win over people in the Midwest, apolitical voters, if he wants a chance of defeating Trump. So strategically, I just don't think it's the right move for him, which is why it makes her openly groveling for it. Not groveling, but kind of. Even more disappointing, because when you look back, Elizabeth Warren started her political career in part because she wanted to fight the Joe Bidens of the world. Because of him specifically, they had very public fights.
Not only does this bill treat all debtors alike, in many ways it treats all creditors alike. The gas company doesn't have the capacity to change its pricing to reflect these risks, or has very limited capacity. But I remind you of what the credit card companies have already...
Should it? It implies they should.
No, but
should the gas company be required to change the prices to reflect these?
Oh, of course they should,
okay.
Senator.
Well, the way you stated, you said they don't have the capacity. The implication is maybe they should have that capacity.
My point is the losses will go to some creditors who cannot reflect this in their prices. With fees and interest, I submit, Senator, that there are many in the credit industry right now who are getting their bankruptcies prepaid. That is, they have squeezed enough out of these families in interest and fees and payments that never
Maybe we should talk about usury rates then. Maybe that's what we should be talking about, not bankruptcy.
I'll be the first. Invite me.
No, I know you will, but let's call a spade a spade. Your problem with the credit card companies is usury rates from your position. It's not about the bankruptcy bill.
But, Senator, if you're not going to fix that problem, you can't take away the last shred of protection for these families.
Okay. You're very good, Professor.
Yeah, that was the old Elizabeth Warren. She was even more intense in her feelings about Joe Biden in her writings when she wrote in her book specifically about him in 2003. She was talking about the bankruptcy bill, which he pushed forward. She said, yeah, of course, this is a giveaway to corporations, giveaway to the banks, but it also specifically hurts women. And Biden's been talking all about his Violence Against Women Act, and that's great. But when you're passing pro-corporate legislation that hurts women disproportionately, that undercuts that. Women's issues are not just about childbearing or domestic violence. If it were framed properly, middle-class economic reform just might become the issue that could galvanize millions of mainstream women to join the fight for women's issues. The numbers are clearly there. This year, more women will file bankruptcy papers than will receive college diplomas. More women with children will search for a bankruptcy lawyer than will seek subsidized daycare. And in a statistic with special significance for Senator Biden, more women will be victimized by predatory lenders than will seek protection from an abusive husband or boyfriend. That's a shot at his donors. The point is simply that family economics should not be left to giant corporations and paid lobbyists, and senators like Joe Biden should not be allowed to sell out women in the morning and be heralded as their friend in the evening. God damn. Another reason why he shouldn't pick her. You think those quotes aren't going to come up by the Republicans? Maybe not by the media, who's decided that they're just going to completely ignore all of the flaws about Joe Biden now that he's the presumptive nominee, and they kind of did it towards the end when it was all about beating Bernie Sanders. That Elizabeth Warren, I'm dumbfounded, obviously. That Elizabeth Warren was an extremely strong advocate for consumers, and I don't doubt that, you know, she got reelected. I don't know if she would have as good of a shot now if she were up for reelection, but she's in the Senate through 2024. We'll see if she continues the kind of work she'd been doing before, which was progressive, and she's one of the 5 most progressive voters in the Senate, so I don't want her to go away in that instance, but it seems like, you know, the power of Washington, the incentive structure there, it corrupts. It really does. And it doesn't mean she doesn't still have progressive bona fides, but the fact that she would even want to consider being Joe Biden's vice president when he yelled at her and claimed that he got her votes for the CFPB, which wasn't even true, completely inaccurate, made up out of whole cloth, goes to show how deep in it she is at this point and how much she's bought into the Democratic establishment. Again, still very progressive on economic banking reform issues, but the fact that she is so conciliatory towards the Democratic establishment to this level, it's extremely disheartening, to say the least.